Chapter 13 The King of Martial Arts. Chen Chu's home is on the outskirts of the city. Although it is also within the urban area, it is actually an old urban village. The surrounding buildings are all low-rise buildings with 2 or 3 floors. Every house has its own small courtyard, and not far away is the tributary of the rushing river. The next day, Sunday afternoon. In the hot summer, Chen Chu sat at his computer desk, browsing posts about mutant beasts and the world of cultivation on the internet. You wouldn't know it if you didn't search, but when Chen Chu paid attention to these news, he discovered that in recent years all the allies have been increasing their efforts to suppress the mutant beasts that appeared in the country. Especially in the Amazon rainforest, there are too many mutant beasts out of control. Some people even took pictures of a 100-meter-long python in the river. Mutated beasts of this level have reached the scope of giant beasts. In addition, there is turmoil in many places within an allied country. The leaders are some cultivators who are unwilling to have their rights controlled by ordinary people and claim to establish a nation of cultivators so that everyone can practice. Some people analyze that there are shadows of some evil cultists behind the turmoil. Many people are paying attention to this international incident, and there are also live videos sent by local people. In the video, many strong practitioners rush into the machine gun position, ignoring the dense bullet fire. Their speed is terrifying, and their figures can cross 100 meters in a flash. With every movement of his hand, he burst out with terrifying power. He could knock down walls, overturn armored vehicles, and destroy positions in the blink of an eye with a single strike. Facing such a strong man, those ordinary soldiers were as weak as lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Only occasional explosions, fired grenades, and even anti-tank rockets could stop them somewhat. In just over 10 minutes in the video, the city's government center was breached, and there were burning fires, screams, and sporadic gunshots everywhere. After reading this, Chen Chu felt a little lucky. Fortunately, he did not travel to these chaotic allies. At this time, Chen Chu's voice came from downstairs. "Brother, do you want to eat watermelon?" Chen Chu shouted outside the door, "I'll eat it after you cut it." "I knew you would say that." Downstairs, Chen Chu took out a watermelon from the freezer, cut it into pieces a few times, and then brought it upstairs. Chen Chu slipped into the room and looked at the computer curiously when he put down the watermelon. "Brother, you are also paying attention to the cultivators and official battle events in Korea." Chen Chu picked up a piece of watermelon and was a little surprised. "Do you know about this too?" Chen Chu took a bite of the watermelon proudly and said vaguely, "Of course, I want to be the king of martial arts. Isn't it natural to pay attention to international events?" "The king of martial arts, I'm still the pirate king," Chen Chu complained. Chen Chu was confused. "Brother, what is One Piece, the king of the sea? Is it very powerful?" Chen Chu was speechless. "The name is pirate. He must be a thief who is chased by the navy. Do you think he is powerful or not?" "Forget it. I want to become the strongest martial arts king in the world." Chen Chu sat by the bed eating watermelon. "By the way, brother, when I opened the freezer just now, I saw a lot of frozen fish. Have you finished buying so much? And the frozen fish is not delicious at all. It tastes dull. Those are not for us to eat." Chen Chu was stunned and said strangely, "If it's not for us to eat, then who will? Eat it? Here. Give it to it." Chen Chu tapped his chin on the desk, where a 32-centimeter-long, sturdy hexagonal salamander was lying lazily. After his reminder, Chen Chu saw the salamander lying next to the water tank and was immediately surprised. "This is your pet?" "Right. It's really that pet. Why is it so big?" Chen Chu was a little surprised. He remembered that his brother had a fever last week. He came in to take care of the salamander he saw. It seemed to be very small, a little bit bigger. How come it had grown stronger than a puppy in just a week? It must have mutated. Chen Chu said casually, "In the past few days, it has eaten more and more, and its size has increased sharply, but it is not dangerous. Look at the little tiger. Turning over." As he spoke, Chen Chu pretended to make a gesture to the newt clone. Suddenly, in Chen Chu's eyes, the hexagonal salamander that looked a bit fierce turned over. "Wag your tail. Raise your paws." Next, Chen Chu directed and performed several gestures, and then his consciousness controlled the clone to cooperate, coaxing Chen Chu into a daze. Regarding the existence of the newt clone, Chen Chu was not prepared to hide it from his family, and at the same time he couldn't hide it. After all, he had to eat so much every day. You can hide it for a day or two, but the truth will be exposed after a long time, so it is better to tell them frankly. Anyway, these mutated pets are not uncommon, and the government also has management countermeasures. Generally, if a pet mutates at home, It needs to be registered at the local branch. Of course, the main reason is that these mutant pets are very weak, and they also recognize their owners and obey their owners. If the pet is aggressive and poses a strong threat to the surrounding residents, it will be forcibly taken away by the authorities. Pets like axolotls, which are larger than puppies, don't seem to be aggressive even if they mutate. Just tell your family and don't need to register. When he evolves next time, he will put the clone into the river. Therefore, during dinner in the evening, Chen Chu took the initiative to talk to Zhongscalen about this matter. Zhongscalen didn't pay attention, but just asked him to pay attention when feeding. In her mind, even if the little pet was mutated, it would still be a bigger fish. On Monday, when Chen Chu walked into the classroom, he felt that the atmosphere in the class was a little impetuous. Before he could sit down, he learned from these classmates that two class leaders, Lin Shui and Yurui, came to the school yesterday to find the teacher and successfully build foundation. Although yesterday was Sunday, some students still like to come to practice in a wide space. Sha Yui came over and whispered, "Achu, how are you? Do you feel a sense of urgency?" Chen Chu glanced at him, then took out the textbook he was going to study this morning from the drawer and said calmly, "There's no point in pressing, just practice slowly. As expected of you, Achu. Yes, it doesn't matter if others break through quickly, I will just continue to go my own way." Sha Yui could tell that Chen Chu's calmness was not just an act, but that he really didn't care that his grades were far behind those of his peers. Unlike other students in the class. Hearing that the squad leader and the others had successfully built the foundation while they themselves were still meditating on the fourth and fifth petals, moving their energy and blood around 4 times and 5 times, they suddenly became impatient. It seems that being anxious is useful. Why did you go there earlier? Don't you know that you should work harder to practice when you go home every day? Correct. At this time, Sha Yui seemed to have remembered something and said, "Achu, I will almost build the foundation tomorrow. At that time, you can enter Area C to learn true martial arts. I can't practice with you anymore. Remember to work hard. You've been doing this for a long time, you must be paving the way for this sentence." Chen Chu glanced at him, shook his head and ignored him. "Hey. I didn't want to surprise you, but unfortunately, you didn't cooperate." Sha Yui smiled, feeling a little regretful. "I will build the foundation tomorrow, which will take about 7 days. Is the talent high quality?" Looking at Sha Yui, who had a wretched smile, Chen Chu was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this guy who looked wretched and mature was actually a genius. Chapter 14 Luo Fei. The next day, Sha Yui successfully established the foundation with another boy. Not 2 days later, another girl in the class successfully established foundation, and then the next day 2 more. Therefore, there were fewer and fewer people in the afternoon practice classroom, and the atmosphere became more and more impetuous. After the foundation building is successful, they will go to Area C to practice. That area is the real martial arts training area. The freshmen, sophomore and senior students who are building the foundation are all there. The two sides are like people from 2 worlds. After the foundation was established, Lin Shui and others rarely came to the cultural class in the morning. When they did show up, they were in a hurry. It seemed that their time was very tight and they were too busy. At the same time, the aura on their bodies became more and more overwhelming and fierce, so that the students who were approaching did not dare to step forward. This situation makes those students who have not yet established the foundation even more eager. Every afternoon, the training classes are more serious and hardworking, which is different from the idleness at the beginning. But it's a pity that if you have talent, you have it, and if you don't have it, you don't have it. Another week passed in the blink of an eye, and there were 12 people building foundations in the class. With less than half of the people missing, the classroom seemed much emptier. On Monday, Chen Chu, who had had a pleasant weekend, walked into the classroom and saw Sha Yui sitting in his seat. In addition, 2 class leaders, Lin Shui and Yurui, were also there. Sha Yui looked at Chen Chu with a smile and said, "Hey, Achu, haven't you seen me for so many days, have you missed me?" Chen Chu was speechless. "You are not a beauty. What do you have to think about? And you just went to Area C to practice Zenwu. It's not like you showed up today." Chen Chu shook his head and ignored him. Looking at Chen Chu, who was taking out his textbook and getting ready for class, Sha Yui blinked. After a long time, he still couldn't help but said, "Achu, aren't you curious about the difference between real martial arts and basic skills?" Looking at Sha Yui with an expression of ask me quickly, Chen Chu said nonchalantly, "What are you curious about? Anyway, I will be able to practice in a while." Achu, you are so boring. Sha Yui was a little depressed. He came early today and waited for a long time, just to see Chen Chu begging him to describe Zenwu's appearance, but he didn't expect this to be the result. This reaction was very different from the little beauty at the front desk who excitedly asked him about everything. He had been looking forward to it for so long. Chen Chu just smiled at this, he was really not in a hurry. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the melodious school bell rang. In the training classroom, Chen Chu, who was practicing, slowly stopped his exercises and the boiling blood in his body also calmed down. Almost. Feeling the abundant energy and blood in his body, as well as the slight feeling of fatigue after 7 consecutive rounds of transportation, Chen Chu had a smile on his face. He gained a lot during this period. He completed the meditation method 5 days ago and visualized 12 petals. Qi and blood transfer can also be done 7 times in half an hour. It's a pity that the proficiency increases less and less as time goes by. Now after practicing once, 7 turns in one breath only increases 4 points. Otherwise, he would have broken through long ago. But even so, the foundation building can be completed in 3 days. The time is just stuck in building the foundation within 15 days and the talent performance is average, not very good but not bad either. After resting for a while, Chen Chu went to take a shower, put on washed and dried clothes and came out. At this time, a girl opposite also came out of the girls' dressing room. When she saw Chen Chu, a smile appeared on her face. Chen Chu, are you going back? Yes. Chen Chu nodded. It just so happens that I'm going back early today. Can we go together? Okay. This female classmate is called Luo Fei, a classmate that Chen Chu met last week. During this time, the two occasionally exchanged their cultivation experiences together. In addition, half of their paths home overlapped, and they were all in the same direction. After meeting each other a few times, they gradually became familiar with each other. The sun was hot, and under the shade of the trees on the roadside, Luo Fei and Chen Chu, who had long hair shawl, walked side by side. A slight cool breeze blew by, bringing with it the faint fragrance of shampoo. Chen Chu, I see that you are not under any pressure during the 7th turn transfer today. You should be about to break through, right? It will probably take a few days. Luo Fei glanced at the figures running on the playground in the distance, and said softly, I have perfected my visualization now, and my blood can be transported 9 times in half an hour. After I go back today, I will use the explosive bear blood essence to practice overnight. I should be able to build the foundation tomorrow. A faint smile appeared on Chen Chu's face. Congratulations. Luo Fei turned to look at Chen Chu with encouragement on her beautiful face. Come on, Chen Chu, I'll go to Area C and wait for you first. Chen Chu smiled, nodded and said, well, let's work together. While they were talking, the two of them walked out of the shade of the tree, and the sunlight fell on Luo Fei's milky face, and her skin glowed with a light luster as if it were transparent. Chen Chu's eyes paused slightly when he saw this scene. During this time, Chen Chu made a little observation and found that the girls in their class were all good-looking, and the most beautiful one was naturally the class president Lin Shui. A goddess with slightly curly purple hair, a beautiful face, and a hot figure. Then there is Luo Fei. Different from Ling Xiu's exquisite beauty, Luo Fei's appearance is beautiful and pure, with a fair face as pink as fat, with a little baby fat, and beautiful facial features. A pair of beautiful phoenix eyes with long and narrow corners. Every time she smiles, her eyes will slightly narrow into half moons, revealing a hint of charm. He is about 1.68 meters tall, and his long black hair likes to end with a white butterfly at the back of his head. The hanging white ribbon is mixed with the hairdo, which is full of freshness. This kind of innocence also reveals a bit of charming charm, which immediately puts her in comparison with the young girls in the class. Even Chen Chu would occasionally react to the charm she exuded inadvertently, and had to sigh that she was another natural beauty. Next, the two walked together for a while, and then separated at a fork in the road. It was exactly 5 o'clock when Chen Chu returned home. He was carrying several bags and large and small bags. The 2 largest bags contained more than 20 kilograms of frozen fish. More than 20 kilograms of fish is enough for the current clone to eat for 2 days. In the kitchen, Chen Chu cut open the palm-sized white strips, cleaned the internal organs, and put them aside. After a while, he filled the basin. On the second floor, a 47-centimeter-long hexagonal salamander was half lying on the table. Its head as big as a goose egg was slightly raised, with 3 pairs of red teeth and horns spread out on both sides like a little lion. Although the clone is not very big at this time, it has gradually begun to look like a carnivorous creature. Chen Chu placed the basin of fish meat in front of the clone, and when his consciousness turned, he saw the salamander clone opening its mouth wide, biting into a fish and tearing it apart. In front of the 2 rows of small but sharp teeth on the top and bottom of the clone, the fish meat was torn apart easily, and it was chewed and swallowed in a few mouthfuls. The eating speed was astonishing. Eat, digest, grow. A pot of more than 6 kilograms of fish meat was quickly eaten. At the same time, the axolotl's body grew thicker at a speed visible to the naked eye, and its body length increased to 48 centimeters. After eating and drinking enough, he lay on the table to digest. Chen Chu sat in a chair and was thoughtful. He was thinking about what genes the clone would fuse next. The clone can evolve the talent of integrating the genes of other creatures, giving it unlimited possibilities. But having too many choices is sometimes a pain, because insects and animals have so many other abilities, many of which are so powerful that humans cannot understand them. For example, the tiger beetle can move more than 200 times faster in an instant, the mantis shrimp can attack at supersonic speeds, and Chapter 15 Breakthrough. In the morning, on the way to school, Chen Hu walked in front carrying a backpack. At this time, Chen Hu saw the bun shop on the roadside. Feeling a little hungry, he turned back to look at Chen Chu. When he was about to say something, he suddenly froze and said in surprise, "Brother, you seem to have grown taller recently." Chen Chu said casually, "I know, it should be because of cultivation." Salamander evolved and improved his physique by 3 points. During this period, he practiced the body casting art to transfer qi and blood and strengthen his body, which also improved his physique by almost 2 points. In this case, not only did Chen Chu's height increase from 1.7 meters to 1.73 meters, but his originally thin body became more muscular and straight. Even the pale face has a little more color and looks more handsome and healthy. Can you grow stronger by practicing? It's a pity that I'm only 13 years old and can't practice yet. Chen Hu was a little envious and pointed at the steamed bun shop. "Brother, I'm still a little hungry and want to eat 2 steamed buns." Chen Chu looked at him strangely. "If you want to eat, just buy it." "Hey, I have no money." Chen Chu frowned. "Didn't I just give you living expenses on Monday?" I've eaten a lot lately, so I finished eating." Chen Hu's eyes were wandering, and he didn't dare to look at Chen Chu. "Really?" Chen Chu expressed doubts. Because he spent all his time in the canteen at noon, Chen Chu would give Chen Hu living expenses every week, and in addition there was a little pocket money every day. Although it's not much, it should be enough for him. As for Chen Chu himself, I'm sorry, he is in charge of the family's life. He is responsible for the family's monthly expenses. He is responsible for buying food and cooking after school. It's just that I have to take care of my doppelganger recently, so the food at home is a little poor. Is this the reason? After thinking about it, Chen Chu took out 100 from his pocket and handed it to him, and said angrily, "Take it, and tell me earlier next time if you have no money." The purchasing power of money in this world is similar to that of the earth where Chen Chu lived in his previous life. A bowl of noodles costs about 10 yuan. Today, Wednesday, 100 yuan is enough for Chen Hu to spend these days. Originally, Chen Chu was going to give him 50, but after looking at Chen Hu's tall and powerful figure at only 13 years old, he felt that 50 shouldn't be enough for him. "Thank you, brother." Chen Hu happily took the money and bought 2 big buns, 1 in each bite, and finished them in a few times. The two came to a street intersection, and several girls wearing junior high school uniforms came over on the other side. After seeing Chen Hu, they waved to him. "Chen Hu, hurry up. Wait for me, brother, I'm leaving first." "Go ahead." Chen Hu ran over with a smile. "Chen Hu, is that person your brother?" "Yes." "Chen Hu, brother, you is so handsome." "That's right, my brother is the most handsome, and his academic performance is very good. He was admitted to Nanshan Martial Arts High School as the first in his grade. He is now practicing real martial arts." "Wow, your brother is so awesome." Hearing the faint conversation in the distance, Chen Chu shook his head. Arriving at the class, Chen Chu glanced at the classroom and did not find Luo Fei. It seemed that she had gone to find the teacher to build a foundation. The class became more and more empty without one person. This feeling made most students more impetuous and absent-minded in the morning cultural class. Half a month ago, everyone was still a freshman in high school, talking, laughing and playing around. But just over 10 days had passed, and as one individual left the foundation, the class of dozens of people was divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. There was a feeling that the later people broke through, the worse they were. Therefore, in the afternoon training class, even if no one maintained order, everyone practiced extra hard. But many times, the harder you work, the more desperate you become. Because they discovered that they really couldn't do it. As the school bell rang, the lights of the blood essence stone were turned off, and everyone in the training classroom slowly finished their exercises. Most of the people's faces showed exhaustion. I can barely carry it for 5 turns. A girl couldn't bear the silent pressure and couldn't help crying. In addition to her, there were also some students whose faces showed unwillingness and bitterness. They have been practicing for half a month, but the energy and blood transfer can only reach 6 turns in a row, and the fastest they can do is 4 turns in half an hour. Under such circumstances, they would not be able to complete 10 revolutions in half an hour within a month. Even if they could barely build the foundation later, it would mean they had no talent for cultivation. Chen Chu looked at these things but had no idea. After taking a short rest, he packed up and prepared to go home. If you don't have the talent for cultivation, you don't have the talent for cultivation. There is no need to force it. This world not only has cultivation, but you can also get ahead in other industries. Of course, no matter which world it is in, boxing is power. It is better to practice true martial arts and make oneself stronger without resorting to external forces. Under normal circumstances, Chen Chu would be one of these people. He was born weak and unable to practice martial arts even if his mental talent was average. It's just his physique that limits him. With a touch of emotion, Chen Chu, carrying a shoulder bag, walked out of the campus in a hurry. Night. In the room, Chen Chu looked like a dragon, practicing a body casting technique similar to Tai Chi combined with ancient yoga. The 18 postures are constantly changing, smoothly and freely, completely different from the unfamiliarity at the beginning. After practicing more than 200 times, it has almost become instinctive. At the same time, the qi and blood in his body were circulated several times thicker. While slowly exercising his body was emitting amazing heat like a furnace. Call. Suddenly, Chen Chu stopped suddenly, let out a long breath, and a blazing hot air rushed out for half a meter before dissipating. Finally reached 10 revolutions in half an hour. A smile appeared on Chen Chu's face. At this time, he only felt that the blood and energy in his body were smooth and steaming, and he did not feel as tired as before. After practicing hard for nearly half a month, he finally broke through and forcibly broke the limit of his talent. At this time, even Chen Chu felt full of accomplishment. On the desk, the axolotl, which had grown to 50 centimeters and was as thick as an arm, showed human satisfaction on its face. After calming down, Chen Chu thought and called up the attribute page. Constitution, 12. Strength, 11. Agility, 10. Spirit, 15. Talent, soul splitting. Skills, Yepen Lotus Platform Meditation Progress 100 Body Casting Art 100/100. Split Body, Hexagonal Salamander. Evolution Value, 25/50. The 2 basic methods improved his physique by 2 points and his mental attributes by 2 points respectively. The increased physique also increased his strength attribute by 1 point. At this time, his overall attributes are 20% higher than ordinary people, and his spirit is 5 points higher than ordinary people. The result is that when he is thinking about things recently, his thinking and conscious reactions are much faster than in the past. At the same time, the avatar's growth is also progressing steadily during this period, and the result is that it eats more. However, this consumption is still within the acceptable range. Chen Chu put away the attribute page with a hint of expectation on his face. I hope tomorrow's foundation building will not disappoint me. It's just that the foundation building before training was so laborious and difficult. If the changes after foundation building tomorrow were too bad, it would be a shame for his efforts during this period. Chapter 16 Extraordinary. In the early morning, Chen Chu followed the flow of people and walked into the school gate. What comes into view are faces full of vitality. Regardless of men or women, they all look full of hope for the future. In the current Xia district, as long as you go to high school, you have to learn body casting skills, so even some liberal arts students are full of energy and high spirits. This kind of picture occasionally gives Chen Chu the illusion that everyone in this world is like a dragon. After passing the liberal arts teaching building, Chen Chu passed through the training building B, where he had stayed for half a month, and came to the C area building at the back. The entrance was to the office area on the first floor. Looking at Chen Chu walking in, the woman behind the desk on the side asked, "Which class are you a freshman in?" "Class 3. Teacher Pang Long is in charge of Class 3. Go to the 3rd floor to find him. Take the elevator up from there." After saying that, the woman pointed to Chen Chu. "Thank you." Chen Chu thanked him politely and took the elevator to the third floor. This is a floor that is more spacious than the training classroom, covering thousands of square meters. Except for the load-bearing columns with a diameter of 2 meters, there are no obstacles in the middle. Both sides of the huge floor are covered with various equipment and high-tech products, and the space is divided into individual training venues of tens of square meters. It was still early and there were no students practicing. Not far from the entrance, Pang Long, who had shown his face on the first day, was sitting in the office and browsing the computer. Seeing Chen Chu knocking on the door and walking in, Pang Long thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, "Class 3, Chen Chu." "Yes, teacher." She was a little surprised that he could call her by his name, Chen Chu. After all, they had met once that day, and it was just the teacher introducing himself. Of course, Chen Chu didn't know that the other party had read everyone's information when school started. Pang Long nodded with satisfaction. That's right, full of energy and blood. To be able to complete foundation building in half a month, his talent is quite good. Take this information and read it. It will take 10 minutes. After reading it, I will take you to build the foundation. As he said that, Pang Long pushed a folder in front of him. Seeing this, Chen Chu was not restrained, sat opposite him and picked up the folder. From the slightly old cover of the folder, it can be seen that it has been viewed by many people and the content inside is about the precautions for the next foundation building. The so-called foundation building is to introduce qi into the body, which is the extraordinary energy floating between heaven and earth. In the past, there were only various rays and magnetic field waves in this world, so ordinary people could not become extraordinary no matter how hard they practiced. Until the beginning of the new era 50 years ago, along with the cracks where the giant beasts appeared and disappeared, endless extraordinary energy poured into the earth. It's just that these energies are scattered between heaven and earth, so thin that ordinary people cannot detect them. Only some people who are innately awakened can practice and become stronger. Faced with this situation, some powerful practitioners worked together with the country to create the first generation of cultivation methods after years of research. Then after repeated optimization and popularization, Chen Chu and others created the meditation method and body casting technique to strengthen the body and active spirit. In order to further ensure that the foundation can be successfully established, each first-class university has built a special training room. In the practice room, the free extraordinary energy is 5 times that of the outside world, making it easier for beginners to feel it, capture the extraordinary energy and introduce it into the body for refining. Theoretically, the first foundation building is a transformation, so the better the foundation, the longer the foundation building state lasts, the greater the harvest. In addition, there are many details that need to be paid attention to in the document to prevent beginners like them from making mistakes and leading to the failure of foundation building. Looking at the young man who put down the information, Pang Long said in a deep voice, "Have you finished reading it?" Chen Chu nodded, "I finished reading." "Well, come with me." Pang Long stood up and took Chen Chu out of the office. At this time, several elevator doors opened and a dozen students poured out. Among these people were Xia Yui, Lin Shui, Yi Rui and other people in the class who had already established the foundation, including Luo Fei who had completed the foundation the day before yesterday. Seeing Chen Chu, Xia Yui showed a happy smile on his face. "Ah Chu, you are finally here. It's not bad, I'm so many days behind you." Chen Chu smiled. Xia Yui patted Chen Chu's shoulder hard, very happy. "I knew you were okay." Luo Fei, whose long hair was tied with a white butterfly ribbon, walked over with a smile on her beautiful face and a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes that were very charming. Seeing that they were classmates in the class, Lin Shui, Yi Rui and others also nodded slightly, to which Chen Chu smiled back. At this time, Xia Yui wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Pang Long. "Okay, there will be plenty of time to reminisce about the past, so don't waste everyone's time." Xia Yui smiled at the teacher. "Yes, Ah Chu, hurry up and build the foundation. Then you can choose a true martial art to practice. Come on." Luo Fei gave an encouraging look. After nodding in greeting, Chen Chu followed Pang Long into the elevator, but instead of going up, he went all the way down to the 5th underground floor. After exiting the elevator, there is a row of corridors with small rooms with closed doors on both sides. Chen Chu stood aside, while Pang Long went to a counter similar to a self-service vending machine, entered information, verified his identity, and then the machine spit out a card. While Chen Chu waited for a while, several more teachers came down one after another, followed by 1 or 2 students. "Go, practice room 15. Remember, you can hold on for as long as you can." Chen Chu took the magnetic card, found the training room number 15, inserted the card, and the heavy metal door slowly opened. After Chen Chu entered, The door slowly closed again, and then the second white glass door in front of him opened a gap, and a cool breeze suddenly blew in. This is the phenomenon of high concentrations of extraordinary energy surging into low energy zones. Chen Chu did not dare to neglect and quickly passed through the glass door. The glass door behind him closed automatically after sensing his entry. This is a small room with a length of 3 to 4 meters and a width of about 10 square meters. There is a faint white light shining from the top of the head. Other than that, there is nothing else. It is very simple. Call. Chen Chu took a deep breath, stood in the middle, and started practicing without any fancy preparations. The basic requirement for foundation building is to perform 10 turns of the body casting technique in half an hour, which means practicing it once in 3 minutes. The purpose is to make the blood in the whole body steam. The meditation method is to make the mental power more concentrated and pure, to transport qi and blood faster, and to capture the extraordinary energy free from the outside world. At this time, as Chen Chu practiced, the 18 postures of the body casting art continued to change. The speed became faster and faster, and the blood and qi in the whole body circulated rapidly and became hotter and hotter. After 10 consecutive turns, the whole body is like a steamer, the qi and blood are emitting high temperatures, and the mental power becomes sharper due to the active qi and blood. Then he felt the energy that seemed to be wandering around him. It was very weak, void, and ethereal. It's now. Chen Chu looked stern and practiced the body casting art at a faster speed. At the same time, his mental power pulled a ray of external energy perceived on the body surface into his body. Boom! Chapter 17 1 Heaven. When that energy entered the body and came into contact with the steaming blood, it was like sparks igniting gasoline. Chen Chu felt that his whole body was on fire. Of course, this is just a metaphor, not that it actually burned. As wisps of extraordinary energy were taken into the body, Chen Chu's whole body's qi and blood burned more vigorously, and at the same time, the transported qi and blood circulated throughout his body. Under the burning of extraordinary energy, the nature of these blood and gas undergoes some special changes, and the muscles and bones wherever it passes when running the whole body are greatly strengthened. This strengthening includes the internal organs, fascia, and nerves. This feeling is somewhat similar to the previous improvement during the evolution of the avatar. It is a comprehensive improvement of physical fitness, and all aspects are greatly improved under the extraordinary energy. Every minute, Chen Chu's body becomes stronger. This situation made him practice even harder, and his mental power crazily guided extraordinary energy into his body. If we say that the steaming qi and blood produced by practicing the body casting art is the basis for igniting extraordinary energy, then the mental strength gained through meditation determines how much extraordinary energy you can channel in 1 minute and how long you can persist. Both are indispensable. And those who can think of and create this kind of foundation building technique are simply geniuses. When Chen Chu started to build the foundation, many students in the classroom looked at the empty seat where he usually sat. Beside, a girl with short hair said enviously, "Classmate Chen Chu hasn't come yet. He should have broken through and went to find teacher Pang to build his foundation." "I don't think so." The other boy shook his head. "That Chen Chu, I remember that when he first practiced the body casting art, it took him almost 50 minutes to complete 1 turn. Most of the other students took between 20 and 30 minutes. This kind of talent is the worst in the class. How can it be possible to build a foundation faster than us? No, I think he should break through." Although he was very slow in transferring energy and blood for the first time, I noticed in subsequent training classes that his training progress improved very quickly. Yesterday he was able to transfer energy at level 8 with ease. I also think it's a breakthrough. I'm envious. I've only reached the 7th level of cultivation now, and I can only move the 6th level in half an hour. I don't know when I will be able to break through. You are better than me. I can only carry it 5 times at a time. Any more will make me feel dizzy and exhausted. It's been half a month and you're only in the 5th grade? There's no hope for you. I advise you to choose the cultural major. What? I've only reached the 4th level of cultivation. What should I do? The foundation building state continued for a long time. When his mental power was exhausted to the point where he could no longer guide external energy into his body, Chen Chu slowly stopped. Call. Chen Chu let out a long breath and opened his eyes filled with exhaustion and excitement at the same time. Fatigue means too much mental exertion, while excitement means the practice during this period has paid off. With the success of foundation building, he could now clearly see that the energy and blood in his body was like a furnace, and his whole body was full of strength, as if he could punch through a wall with one punch. Of course, this feeling is due to the illusion that the physique has been strengthened too much at once. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Chen Chu called up the attribute page with a thought, and immediately saw Constitution 21, Strength 20, Agility 19, and Spirit 24. All 4 major attributes have been improved by 9 points, which is twice as high as that of an ordinary person. And Chen Chu vaguely felt that this foundation building not only greatly improved his physique, but also seemed to have undergone some other inexplicable changes in his body. Thoughtfully, Chen Chu opened the door. Looking at the handsome young man who came out, Pang Long nodded with satisfaction. Yes, after 2 hours of foundation building, this result is already above average. Looking at you, I have gained a lot. Let's go and choose your own Zenwu Kung Fu. Yes, teacher. Chen Chu followed behind with some excitement. Successful foundation building is only the beginning, and the next step is to truly step into the door of cultivation. Following Pang Long, the two took the elevator all the way to the top floor of the 33rd floor of the building. It was like a huge library, filled with bookshelves and paper books. Just when Chen Chu thought those books were Zenwu secrets, Pang Long took him to another place similar to a private room in an internet cafe. There is a computer in every room. After you enter your student ID, recognize it by face, and enter the basic data, and then you can browse the exercises within the permissions. Remember, the school divides the initial permissions of new students into 3 days, 1 week, half a month, and 1 month. You have broken through the foundation building within half a month, and you are qualified to learn 2 low-level exercises. Once the exercises are chosen, they cannot be changed, so choose carefully. If you want to learn higher levels or other techniques in the future, you have to contribute points to redeem them. There are instructions on the computer for what contribution points are. By the way, those outside are some Taoist and Buddhist scriptures, brief introductions to allied countries, and some information about mutated beasts and practitioners' experiences. There is no harm in reading more after practicing. Okay, I'm going to find someone to drink tea with. You can go alone. After explaining this to Chen Chu, Pang Long walked into the office not far away, where a middle-aged man was watering the flowers and plants on the balcony. Chen Chu found an unoccupied room, locked the door, and sat down on the sofa in front of the computer. The computer was on and he could enter his student number directly. Beep. Student number 2055. 967. Start face verification. As the smart voice sounded, the camera on the display emitted a faint red light and scanned Chen Chu's face. Verification passed. Welcome to the Tianyu Think Tank system. Next is data entry. Please test the data on the tester next to it as required. Please start the first item, the arm strength test. Data test. Chen Chu stood up and came to the arm strength machine on the left side of the room. He grabbed the pull tabs on both sides and took a deep breath. The strength of his upper body muscles exploded. The arm strength is 102 kilograms. The data has been uploaded. Please start the boxing strength test. Bang. The punching force is 210 kilograms. The data has been uploaded. Please start the kicking force test. Boom. The kicking force is 290 kilograms, and the data test is completed. Your basic data has reached the first level entry standard, and you are qualified to receive contribution points. Currently, you can receive 3 contribution points every month. Now let the students choose Zenwu Kung Fu. After saying this, an exercise browsing option popped up on the computer. However, Chen Chu did not choose the technique immediately, but stood there, recalling the feeling of his burst of power just now. The arm strength is 100 kilograms, the fist strength is 200 kilograms, and the full kick force is close to 300 kilograms. If this kind of strength fell on an ordinary person, it would be enough to kick him to death. And this kind of power is just the beginning of true martial arts. It is indeed a training system that can slowly suppress technological civilization. With emotion, Chen Chu came to the computer and sat down again, clicked to browse, and more than 50 names of exercises appeared on the monitor. Click on each exercise to see a detailed introduction. The Minji Jiu is mainly for defense and explosion. After practice, the body surface will be as strong as jade. When it is completed, the physical body can withstand submachine gun and rifle bullets. Or a sword technique, after practice, the sword light becomes agile and swift. The explosive bear fighting body is mainly for strength and defense. After practice, the energy and blood are strong and the strength is amazing. There are few techniques at the same level that can match it. Ghost legs, main speed, and explosion. After practice, the speed is astonishingly fast. When it is completed, it will look like a ghost, and it will not be sensed by infrared equipment. Dragon Elephant Kung Fu, the main force. Chapter 18 Heavy Weapons. After reading all the introductions to the exercises, Chen Chu leaned on the sofa and pondered slightly. He found that all techniques only have 3 levels, and the upper limit of cultivation is 3 levels. This is the limitation of low-level techniques. Since there are low-level skills, there must be high-level or even top-level skills. This kind of skills cannot be learned by ordinary people and requires higher authority. The authority is equivalent to the time they break through the foundation. The faster they break through, the higher the initial authority will be. No wonder people like Lin Shui are talented themselves, and they do not hesitate to consume a lot of resources in order to quickly break through the foundation building. They should have known about permissions for a long time. Thinking of this, Chen Chu couldn't help but think of the time Xia Yui waited for him specially that day and told him that qi and blood resources could replenish qi and blood and speed up his cultivation. At that time, Xia Yui may have not only reminded him to take care of his health, but also implicitly reminded him to use money to purchase resources and speed up foundation building as soon as possible. It's a pity that even if Xia Yuiming said at that time, there was nothing he could do. Because he had no money and his qualifications were already poor, the reason why he was able to break through within half a month was because of the evolution of the clone and the solidification of proficiency on the attribute page. Thoughtfully, Chen Chu's attention returned to the selection of exercises. Each of these exercises has its own tendencies, but they can generally be divided into 2 categories: main body training and weapon training. Those who focus on body training are divided into those who focus on strength, defense, speed bursts and short-distance movement and leg skills, etc., while the weapons are even more diverse. But no matter what kind of weapon it was, Chen Chu found it extremely exaggerated. For example, for practicing sword art, the notes require that the sword you choose should not be shorter than 1.5 meters and the length should not exceed 2 meters. Your sister, 2 meters tall, is a giant sword, right? There is also the hammering method of practicing the meteor hammer. The recommended standard configuration data of the item is that the hammer head alone must weigh 100 kilograms, otherwise it will not be able to exert its power. The heavier the weapon, the better. In addition, several sword techniques are no exception. The most exaggerated one is the sword technique called Ba Tian Shijian, which requires the sword to be 3 meters long and half a meter wide. Where is this knife? It's exactly the door panel. However, the goal of those who created these techniques was to deal with mutant beasts, and Chen Chu understood. After all, those mutated beasts are several meters or even 10 meters in size, not to mention huge beasts. If the weapons are too small, wouldn't they be annoying to others? After thinking about it, Chen Chu finally chose 1 main skill, Dragon Elephant skill, and 1 sword skill, Mind Eye Bright Sword. The recommended length of the weapon is 2 meters. After confirming the practice method, Chen Chu breathed a sigh of relief. The problem of choosing is so troublesome. Although these techniques are all low-level, each one feels very good. As long as you are successful, you can ignore light firearms. Moreover, every skill is designed to maximize a certain advantage in a person and is specially designed for killing. Then the next step is to redeem the materials for practicing the exercises. Yes, Zenwu skills are very powerful, but they are also troublesome to practice. Many physical skills require supporting resources to get started. For example, to get started with the Dragon Elephant skill, you need to smear the blood of a mutated beast called Ba Xiang on your body during practice so that your body can gain a trace of the characteristics of the elephant. Once the skill is successfully practiced, the power will be greatly increased. When Chen Chu confirmed the technique, something like a virtual helmet slowly fell down on his head. Chen Chu, who had seen the introduction, put the helmet on his head without hesitation. Identity verification in progress. Verification passed. Students, please relax, don't be nervous. Start the Dragon Elephant skill and transmit the data of the heart, eye, and bright sword. The screen that appeared in front of Chen Chu's eyes lit up, and a middle-aged man with a burly body, at least 2 meters tall, appeared on the screen and began to practice the Dragon Elephant skill. On his body, there are lines of energy and blood circulation, like arrows moving according to certain rules. These images pass through the special pupil memory beam, which can keep the brain from forgetting for a month and remain in a state of photographic memory. 1 month is enough for new students to get started. When Chen Chu came out, Pang Long had already left. Taking the elevator to the third floor, Chen Chu didn't see Pang Long. Instead, Xia Yui was practicing not far away. His eyes lit up when he saw him. I saw Xia Yui running over excitedly, and was about to slap him on the shoulder with his hand that was the size of a motorcycle helmet and covered with spiked gloves, but Chen Chu quickly blocked it. You want to murder me? Ha. Sorry, I'm used to it. Xia Yui chuckled, put his hand down, and then asked curiously, Achu, let's talk about it. What are your basic statistics, such as punching power? There is no need to hide this. Chen Chu said casually, arm strength is 102, boxing strength is 210, and kicking strength is 290. It just reaches the first level of the heavenly gate. The arm strength is 102, and the punching strength is only 200 kilograms. It seems that a Chukian has not learned any fighting skills. Normally, the boxing strength of a person who has received professional training can reach 3 times that of an arm, and even a person who has specially trained to strengthen his muscles can reach 4 times. Xia Yui said with a smile, but it's already pretty good. The basic data has reached the threshold of the first level and you will be rewarded with contribution points every month, which will allow you to quickly get started with Zhenwu. The gate of the first level of heaven means that after foundation building, the basic arm strength exceeds 100 kilograms, and the physical strength is strengthened to twice that of ordinary people. And I remember that your physique was average at the beginning, and you probably couldn't even meet the standards of ordinary people. Not bad. Chen Chu nodded. His body was already weak and he looked a little malnourished. So, your body is more suitable for exercises that strengthen your physique and increase your strength. Practicing the body casting art can strengthen your physique by 0.6 times. Only in this way, it makes sense that you can break through to the first level in one breath. Speaking of this, Xia Yui couldn't help but look envious on his face. Because certain skills are highly compatible with each other, such as strength and defense, they are also a type of hidden talent. As long as you choose the right skills, you can get twice the result with half the effort. Good luck. Chen Chu said modestly. He knew that Xia Yui had misunderstood, but this was just right. When the clone evolves again, his physique will definitely improve significantly. This reason can be used to cover up the sudden surge in strength in the future. By the way, Lao Xia, what's the data when you built the foundation? Chen Chu asked, wanting to know the data of these geniuses who built the foundation within a week. Me, it's okay. Xia Yui chuckled with a proud look on his face. My arm strength at that time was 140, punching strength was 340, and kicking strength was 420. How about it? Is it strong? You must know that Lin Xiu's arm strength was only 130 when she completed the foundation building. I am stronger than her. Chen Chu couldn't help but nod. It's indeed amazing. Based on the average arm strength of an ordinary person without exercise being 50 kilograms, Xia Yui's physical fitness was at least 28 points when he completed foundation building, which was 6 points higher than him. The increase in body casting skills for him may only improve his physical fitness by 2 or 3 points, otherwise he would not be envious of Chen Chu's 0.6 increase. Coupled with the estimated 10-point improvement during foundation building, his physique should have reached 16 points before practicing, which is a lot higher than ordinary people. Coupled with some resources to replenish qi and blood, no wonder they practice so fast. Chen Chu, don't listen to his nonsense. At this time Luo Fei came over. Xia Yui, don't forget that the average arm strength of women is only 40 kilograms. Even if the squad leader has learned some physical skills before and completed the foundation building with an arm strength of 130 kilograms, it means that her basic physical fitness has reached 3 times that of ordinary people, which is higher than your increase. Really? Did I remember it wrong? The basic strength of men and women is not the same. Xia Yui, who was exposed, looked confused. Chapter 19 Teamwork. Ignoring Xia Yui, who was pretending to be dumbfounded, Luo Fei looked at Chen Chu and suggested, it will be noon soon, do you want to go have dinner together? The food in the canteen in Wuxia district is different from that in the liberal arts area. A portion of exotic animal meat is provided every day. Chen Chu heard this and was immediately curious. Is the taste of exotic animal meat any different from ordinary meat? There's not much difference in taste, but it's chewier and contains more nutrients, because the meat in the canteen is just ordinary raised exotic animals. While speaking, Luo Fei tucked the hair hanging down from her forehead behind her ears. At this time, the office door in the distance opened. Pang Long glanced at the 3 of them. It's still a little early for dinner. Chen Chu, come over and sign some agreements. Okay, teacher. Chen Chu, who didn't know what to sign, said hello to Luo Fei and Xia Yui and followed them into the office. This is the law that practitioners shall not use force to coerce or harm ordinary people. This is a promise that the practice is prohibited from being spread to outsiders. Also, this is the weapon management treaty for school students. This is the daily notes for practitioners' regulations and guidelines for acting bravely when encountering unjust things. As he spoke, Pang Long took out documents one by one from the drawer and threw them to Chen Chu. Some are regulations that he needs to sign and some are matters that need to be paid attention to after becoming a cultivator at the school, including the management of weapons and so on. Because there were so many files, even Chen Chu was overwhelmed by them all. Seeing the headache on his face, Pang Long smiled. I didn't tell you to read it in 2 times. You can take it back after school today and read it slowly. Just leave it to me tomorrow. Okay, teacher. Chen Chu breathed a sigh of relief. Pang Long nodded. I've seen your foundation building data. It's good. Have you chosen the technique? Yes. Chen Chu nodded. Pang Long reminded, now that you have chosen after lunch, go to the logistics department to get training resources and get started early. You must know that foundation building is not just as simple as strengthening your physique. It also changes your physique to a certain extent, giving you a certain affinity for extraordinary energy. Next, you only need to practice true martial arts and transfer energy and blood to absorb the extraordinary energy from the outside world and strengthen yourself. And within a few days of completing foundation building, your body will be in a more sensitive and active period to extraordinary energy, and your cultivation efficiency will be better. Chen Chu was slightly stunned, but he didn't expect that there were so many words in it. No wonder Xia Yui and the others couldn't see anyone for a long time after they completed the foundation building. Thank you for the reminder, teacher. Chen Chu said gratefully. Pang Long said calmly, this is what I should do. If you have any questions about your cultivation from now on, you can ask me. I will stay here for a while every morning. When Chen Chu walked out of the office, he saw Xia Yui, Luo Fei, Lin Shui and another man and woman chatting about something. Xia Yui said with a smile, Achu, you're out, let's go eat first, and I want to tell you something by the way. Chen Chu glanced at Lin Shui and others, nodded slightly, okay. The canteen in the training area is on the 30th floor. The taste is similar to that in the liberal arts area, but the portions of the food are indeed larger than those in the liberal arts area, and most of them are meat dishes. In addition, there are many people. There are nearly 50 classes in the first grade of high school. Currently, there are many students in these classes who have made breakthroughs. There are as many as 10 or so in the 3rd class, and there are 5 or 6 in the smaller classes. In this case, the total number of first-year students who have completed foundation building is more than 300. A few people packed their meals and found a quieter corner to sit down. Here Chen Chu and Xia Yui are sitting together opposite our Luo Fei and monitor Lin Shui, and 2 other classmates are sitting next door. After sitting down, Lin Shui looked at Chen Chu across from him with a smile on his face. First of all, congratulations to Mr. Chen for successfully building the foundation in half a month. Chen Chu said modestly, no, this achievement is far behind yours. Lin Shui shook her head slightly, this is not a compliment. You can build a foundation in half a month, and your talent has surpassed that of most people in the school. This is also related to what we are looking for you. Please say. Lin Shui did not beat around the bush. For us, foundation building is just the beginning. There is still a long way to go, so we are ready to establish a society. Society. Yes, the club. This club has 2 purposes. One is to share our experiences in practicing Zenwu, encourage each other, and prepare for the subsequent trials. A trial? Are we going out to fight? Chen Chu was slightly startled. Certainly. Lin Shui said matter-of-factly, cultivating Zenwu is more than just a hobby. If we don't experience combat, how can we build a strong heart? Classmate Chen, haven't you noticed that there are very few 2nd and 3rd year martial arts students in the school? Even practitioners in society are relatively rare. I really didn't notice any of this. Half a month after traveling through time, there were too many things going on, and Chen Chu really didn't pay attention to these issues deliberately. Although he had doubts occasionally, as he didn't seem to see any cultivators on the road, he just thought that those people were hiding deep in the city. After the 2nd grade, all trainees must participate in trials. In previous years, the mission locations were usually virgin forest areas blocked by the military. There have been more and more mutated creatures over the years, and they need to be cleaned up regularly. Therefore, trials are dangerous, and there are casualties every year. Faced with this situation, many sophomores will choose to form teams to improve their task completion rate. This is why I plan to establish a club. There are currently 5 members in the club, all of whom are classmates. If there are no surprises in the next year's adjustment, we will form a team to participate in the trial next year. Of course, if during this year everyone finds out that there are differences in personality, outlook, etc., you can withdraw from the club at any time. How about it? Are you interested in joining, Mr. Chen? Facing Lin Xiu's invitation, Chen Chu thought slightly. In fact, joining this club has no disadvantages for him at present, only benefits, such as the sharing of some information and some common sense. Because of their family backgrounds, Lin Shui and Xia Yui knew a lot of information that ordinary people didn't know. In addition, they are very talented. In this case, one step will lead to the other, and the gap between ordinary people and them will become wider and wider. Of course, if you are a monster with talent, you can naturally come from behind. But the question is, how many ordinary people in this world have monster-level talents? Moreover, Chen Chu knew in his heart that Lin Xiu's invitation to join the club was related to the fact that he had completed foundation building within half a month and his talent was average, not too bad. This is not to say that Lin Shui and others are realistic, but that dragons do not live with snakes. After just a while, Chen Chu made an analysis of the pros and cons in all aspects and then politely said, "Can you let me think about it for 2 days?" Okay. Lin Shui paused slightly and heard that this was Chen Chu's polite refusal. But she couldn't figure out why this boy named Chen Chu refused to join this club that was obviously more beneficial to him. Not only Lin Shui, but others were also a little surprised. Of course, they didn't know that Chen Chu had too many secrets. Compared with the benefits of joining the club, he still felt that it was better to practice quietly alone. Chapter 20 Dragon Elephant. Lao Sha, don't you ask me why I refused to join your club. I'm too lazy to ask at you, you must have your own reasons. After lunch everyone dispersed after Chen Chu declined. Chen Chu was going to the logistics department to exchange for training resources. Xia Yui volunteered to lead the way. On the way, Chen Chu was a little surprised that Xia Yui didn't ask him why he refused. By the way, Ah Chu, you will complete the foundation building within half a month. According to the regulations, you can get 3 contribution points every month. You must not use it indiscriminately. If someone comes to you to collect contribution points, just punch him and tell him to get out. There are still people buying contribution points. Of course, no one can contribute enough. Xia Yui explained, under normal circumstances, the school's contribution point exchange is 1,000 to 1, and the black market is 1,000 to 3,000, but there is no market for them. Especially for us new students, contribution points are more important, and we can redeem resources in the logistics department that are not available on the market. When every new student purchases training resources for the first time, the school will give them a 10% discount. For example, the Baxiang essence and blood you want to redeem next costs 50,000 yuan per share on the market, and ordinary people can't buy it, but it only costs 20 contribution points to exchange. There are also weapons, ordinary first-grade alloy swords and the like. The external sales are 350,000 and 50,000. You only need a 10-point contribution to redeem them at the school. In addition, if you want to practice other skills, you also need to exchange contribution points, so everyone is short of this thing, and some people go to the point of acquiring new students' contribution points. Some freshmen who have just established a foundation, without knowing the importance of contribution points, can't help but be tempted by high prices of 3,000 or even 5,000 for 1 point. This happens every year, and students who sell their contribution points soon regret it. Why didn't the school remind those new students? Chen Chu couldn't help but wonder. Xia Yui shrugged, the school is not a nanny. The basic resources have been prepared for you. Who can you blame if you can't help but be tempted? This is also true. Chen Chu nodded. This world is still populated by ordinary people. For high school students from ordinary families, 1 contribution point can sell for thousands of dollars, which is indeed a great temptation. Furthermore, the discount rights for new students can only be exchanged for their corresponding training resources. There are also many restrictions on the trading and exchange rights for contribution points. There are no loopholes for people to exploit. While the two were talking, they came to Building D, where the logistics department is located. As soon as they entered the office hall, some students who were older than them looked over. One of them, a student with dyed blonde hair, was even more enthusiastic. Junior, do you have any idea of selling contribution points? You only need 1 contribution point, and you can sell it for 5,000 quickly. Before Chen Chu could speak, Sha Yui said angrily, get out as far as you want, you blood-sucking trash. The blonde boy narrowed his eyes and exuded a faint dangerous aura. He said in a deep voice, Junior, I'm just asking about the transaction normally. There's no need to speak so harshly. I advise you to be more polite. I'm not a freshman in high school. Why, you still want to bite me? Sha Yui was not afraid of him at all. He puffed up his chest and said disdainfully, come on, hit me if you have the guts. Don't think that I am afraid of you since you have been cultivating for a year. If you have the guts, try hitting me. Come on, hit me. Looking at Sha Yui, who had an arrogant expression and turned his face towards him, the sophomore high school student had an ugly face, but he really didn't dare to take action because of some scruples. I really can't do anything to you in school, but don't be too arrogant. After saying that, the blonde boy left coldly. TCH. Threatening me, do you think I'm scared? Sha Yui said disdainfully, don't think that practicing for 1 more year will be a big deal. My brother is still a high-level practitioner. Are you willing to bully the younger ones outside of school? Hearing the words high-level cultivator, the blonde boy's expression suddenly changed and his pace of leaving suddenly became much faster. Watching the senior students leave, Chen Chu couldn't help but look at Sha Yui with renewed recognition and said, okay, Lao Sha, I didn't expect you to have such an arrogant side. Hey. Ah Chu, you must have used the wrong word. I am scolding you out of a sense of justice. How can I call it arrogant? But you really don't need to worry about these senior students. They don't dare to do anything in school. They can only use their power to scare the freshmen. As for leaving school, they will not retaliate for this matter, otherwise they will not be able to bear the consequences if they are reported. While talking, the two came to the window counter. Teacher, I would like to exchange a portion of Boshing's essence and blood. Enter your student number. Identity verification passed. Boxiang essence and blood requires 20 contribution points, but as you are a new student, you can get a 10% discount on your first redemption for training resources and weapons. Are you sure you want to redeem? Sure. There were no twists and turns. After deducting 2 contribution points from Chen Chu, the teacher turned around and went to the wall cabinet at the back to do a few operations. Immediately, the edge of the wall moved, and a grid similar to a small freight elevator lowered, opening to reveal a small black bottle the size of a palm. After exchanging Boshing's essence and blood with Chen Chu, Sha Yui left with a smile. He had to practice in the afternoon. Chen Chu, on the other hand, returned to the 3rd floor alone and applied for an independent training room. In the training room of about 20 square meters, Chen Chu took off his shirt, took out the bottle of Boxiang essence and blood, opened it, and was immediately greeted by a strong smell of blood. Chen Chu carefully poured out a drop of blood essence that was as thick as jelly, and a burning sensation came from his hand. As requested, Chen Chu began to smear blood essence on his body. His front, back, arms, and legs were soon covered in scarlet blood. At this time, Chen Chu closed his eyes slightly, and the beginning of Long Xianggong appeared in his mind. Manpower is limited, and humans alone cannot compete with those giant creatures. Therefore, I created this technique to strengthen myself through external forces. To practice this technique, you need to smear the whole body with the essence and blood of elephant mutant beasts. Among them, the essence and blood of Baxiang is the best for entry. After the essence and blood is smeared all over the body. Recalling the steps of cultivation, the qi and blood in Chen Chu's body began to circulate according to the root of dragon elephant kung fu, and his spiritual power spread out, attracting the energy of heaven and earth that filled the surroundings. Boom! As the extraordinary energy entered the body, the qi and blood all over Chen Chu's body were ignited again. Under the movement of the steaming qi and blood, the Baxiang essence and blood smeared on the body surface was also affected. The essence and blood became hot, and the hot flow mixed with extraordinary energy poured into Chen Chu's body and was refined by the circulating qi and blood. Vaguely, Chen Chu faintly heard the loud and domineering roar of the giant elephant, which shocked his consciousness. Holding Yuan Shui in mind, Chen Chu ignored these mental influences and focused on running his qi and blood to refine the extraordinary energy and essence and blood power. 1 turn, 2 turns. Whoops! With the absorption of Boshing's blood and essence, Chen Chu's physique began to undergo special changes, and his muscles and skin became stronger and more resilient. Even his internal organs were affected to some extent, his breathing was as heavy as an elephant roaring, and his whole body gradually exuded a faint and oppressive pressure. It was as if what was standing there was not a young boy, but a huge elephant. Chapter 21. Be strong. It's earned through pain. In the training room, as the boiling qi and blood subsided, Chen Chu slowly opened his eyes and there was a faint light flickering in his eyes, which was fierce and compelling. Is this true martial arts? It's really powerful. While sighing, Chen Chu clenched his right hand slightly, and suddenly the muscles of his entire arm expanded slightly, forming a powerful force gathered between his palms. He could feel that his physical attributes had not improved much overall, but his skin and muscles had become a little tougher. But after practicing dragon elephant kung fu, the nature of the power in the body changed. The strength has changed from the original looseness to become more condensed, domineering, and as if it were substantial. Every movement of his hand can unleash about twice the destructive power as before. Don't underestimate this. If Chen Chu's boxing strength test in the morning was 210 kilograms, it is now enough to explode to 400 kilograms, a terrifying increase. This is without the accompanying combat skills for practicing dragon elephant kung fu. According to the description of the skill, there are two supporting combat skills of dragon elephant kung fu, each of which allows the user to explode with power far beyond the limit, like a giant elephant stepping on the ground. After feeling the changes in his body for a moment, Chen Chukai made a thought and called up the attribute page. Level, first level. Constitution, 23. Strength, 24. Agility, 19. Spirit, 24. Talent, soul splitting. Skills, Lotus Platform Meditation Method Perfection Dragon Elephant Skill Introduction, first level. Split body. Getting started with the technique, the physical fitness has been improved by 2 points, the strength attribute has been improved by 3 points, and nothing else. Hey. There is no proficiency note at the end of Zhenwu Kung Fu. Chen Chu was slightly stunned, then looked at the notes at the back of the dragon elephant skill, and found that there was indeed no hint of proficiency progress. However, there is an additional level note above. After studying for a while, Chen Chu, who had no results, shook his head, opened the door of the training room, walked into the changing room and washed off the dry blood on his body. It was already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon and there was no one on the third floor, but Pang Long was still in the office. Seeing this, Chen Chu knocked on the half-open door and said hello to Pang Long inside. Teacher, I'm leaving first. Go, by the way, Chen Chu, I remember you also chose a weapon technique. Pang Long called Chen Chu again. Right. Pang Long reminded, there is no rush in weapon skills. Now you should focus on practicing the main skills. You should practice diligently even if you go back from school. You must know that the first heaven is still an ordinary person, but the power is stronger than ordinary people. Only after breaking through the second heaven will the distance be greatly widened. Of course, it's easy to overdo it by practicing hard. Occasionally, you still have to take time to take cultural classes to relax. Thank you for reminding me, teacher. Chen Chu nodded, then said hello again before turning and leaving. Regarding this martial arts teacher, Chen Chu thought he was a harsh and cold person at first, but today he discovered that he was actually easier to talk to. After coming out of Building C, Chen Chu did not go through the playgrounds and take the main entrance as usual, but followed the road signs and took the south door. This road is much closer to the training area, and it is also the reason why martial arts students and cultural class students rarely meet. It's not a gate. To get in or out, only if you encounter a ghost. When Chen Chu returned home, it was already past 6 in the afternoon. Fortunately, he sent a message to Chen Hu at noon, saying that he would be back later today, so he opened the door and went in to see Chen Hu cooking. Brother, you are back. As soon as he turned his head, Chen Hu was surprised and looked at Chen Chu. Brother, how come you have become so powerful after not seeing me for a day? Chen Chu glanced at him sideways. Is it so exaggerated? No, really brother. Chen Hu shook his head, wanting to describe that feeling, but he didn't know where to start. Chen Chu still looks the same, but unlike the handsome young man he used to look like, he seems to have a heavy and compelling feeling about him. Chen Chu shook his head. Okay, don't think so much, it should be the reason why I became a real martial artist. Zhenwu. Brother, have you succeeded in building the foundation? Chen Hu's eyes widened and he said excitedly, isn't it said that foundation building in the first grade of high school is difficult, and many people can't succeed in a month? Brother, you are so amazing. Haha. Now I wonder who dares to say that my brother can't practice martial arts. Chen Hu seemed to be more excited and happy than Chen Chu about Chen Chu's successful practice of Zhenwu. He couldn't wait to tell Zhang Scalan as soon as she came back. However, as an adult, Zhang Scalan is much calmer, but her eyes are slightly red. When she looks at Chen Chu, her eyes are full of achievement and relief. Because as long as you become a cultivator, no matter how successful you are, you will at least have one skill. In this era where personal force is becoming more and more powerful, strength represents status. Many groups and listed companies like to hire practitioners at high prices. As for why these corporate groups hire practitioners at high prices, Zhang Scalan doesn't know. However, she knew that as long as she was a cultivator, she would receive preferential treatment when joining the police and military systems, and the assessment requirements for civil servants were lower than those for ordinary people. Originally, Zhang Scalan had never had any illusions about Chen Chu's cultivation. After all, she knew best how weak her eldest son was. I would catch a cold if I wasn't careful, or pneumonia or nephritis if I was more serious. I still had a high fever just the day before school started, and I passed out from the fever. Who knew it would suddenly give her such a big surprise? At this time, she felt that the hardships and fatigue she had endured while raising 2 children alone were all worth it. After dinner, when Zhang Scalan went to wash the dishes, Chen Hu excitedly pulled Chen Chu and asked him to demonstrate how powerful Zhenwu was. Chen Chu pushed it but didn't push it away, so he stopped refusing and came to the yard. There is a dead peach tree on the left side of his courtyard. The trunk, which is more than 10 centimeters thick, has been cracked in some places, and its branches are sparse. Chen Chu came to the peach tree, signaled Chen Hu to stay away and took a deep breath. He sank slightly, took a half step forward with his left foot, and turned his upper body to the right. It was already 7 o'clock and the sun was setting in the west. A few neighbor elderly people who had had dinner came out for a walk. When they saw brother Chen Chu doing something in the courtyard, they looked over curiously. Then Chen Chu let out a low shout, and in an instant his muscles all over his body expanded slightly. The powerful dragon elephant power penetrated his whole body, with his waist as the axis, and his right leg was slashed like a battle axe. When the foundation building was completed, Chen Chu's kicking force reached 290 kilograms. After starting to practice dragon elephant kung fu in the afternoon, the nature of his whole body's strength changed even more. Boom! A kick of nearly 600 kilograms tore through the air and slammed into the trunk of the tree. The dead peach tree instantly made an overwhelmed sound and was kicked to pieces with a click. Bang! Tree trunks and branches several meters high fell to the ground, making a heavy muffled sound. Such a big movement attracted Zhang Scalan, who was still washing dishes inside, and she and Chen Hu looked at the broken peach tree in surprise. Outside the yard, the elderly people walking were also startled. I can't believe that the person who broke a tree with one kick was the sick man from the Chen family. When everyone looked at the broken tree on the ground in surprise, Chen Chu had already retracted his legs and stood up, looking at this scene with a calm expression, exuding a faint aura of a master. It's just that my right leg is a little shaky. There's nothing you can do about it, it hurts. Although the toughness of his skin has been strengthened after he started practicing the dragon elephant skill, his current strength is limited and he has not yet reached the point of being invulnerable. Chapter 22: The Limit of the First Level. Scalan, your Chen Chu is going to be successful now. Yes, such a thick tree can be broken by just kicking it. It is worthy of a cultivator. If my old arms and legs touch it, it will definitely be gone. Uncle Chin, you really know how to joke. Congratulations, Scalan, you have a cultivator in your family. There, Aunt Zhang praised it. Achu has just established his foundation. He is still a long way from becoming a true practitioner. Maybe one day he won't want to practice because martial arts training is too hard and tiring. Outside the yard, the old people walking around boasted about Zhang Scalan, but Zhang Scalan was very humble. In the yard, Chen Chu and Chen Hu were dismembering the peach tree, shaving off the branches and cutting the trunk into sections and stacking them on the side for easy disposal. But it was said that there were 2 people, but Chen Hu was actually working alone. Brother, it was obviously broken by a kick. Why do you want me to chop down the tree trunk while you watch from the side? As he said this, Chen Hu rubbed his sore arms. Chen Chu beside him said angrily, because it's you who said it depends on the power of the real martial arts. Stop talking nonsense and work quickly. His calf is still hurting and it is inconvenient for him to squat. What can he do? However, Chen Hu only talked about it. After seeing the power of Zhenwu domination, he was very excited, and the idea of cultivating in his heart became more determined. At night, the 6-cornered salamander, which is more than 50 centimeters long, lies on the table, with a humane look of laziness on its face, and its black bean-like eyes, which seem to be in a daze. In the room, Chen Chu sat cross-legged on the bed, eyes closed. In his body, qi and blood circulate continuously along the root of the dragon-elephant skill, refining the extraordinary energy introduced into the body. With each circulation, his physique will strengthen by 1 point. According to the training method, the first level of cultivation is mainly to strengthen the body and temper the skin, muscles and bones to become stronger. When the physique and qi and blood reach the limit of the current state, they will create something from scratch, cultivate the real power similar to the inner qi in martial arts novels, and break through to the second heaven. The basic requirement for reaching the first level limit is that the arm strength reaches 300 kilograms and the physical strength is about 5 times that of ordinary people. And these are just basic statistics. Coupled with the real martial arts skills practiced, practitioners of the first level can burst into terrifying combat power, far exceeding ordinary people. In the next few days, nothing unexpected happened and everything ran according to schedule. Chen Chu goes to school on time every day to practice. When he encounters problems, he asks Pang Long for advice. In the afternoon, he occasionally communicates with Xia Yui after practicing. In addition, while the clone eats a lot every day, its size also grows at a rate visible to the naked eye and its evolution value steadily increases by 2 points every day. Monday morning. On the 3rd floor in the personal training area, Chen Chu, who was sitting cross-legged, slowly opened his eyes with a wry smile on his slightly tired face. Not far away, Xia Yui, who was sitting on the sofa and resting, said with a smile, "How about it? Can't you accept this strong feeling of loss?" "Indeed." Chen Chu nodded. 3 days have passed since he established the foundation. At the beginning, when he practiced hard all day long, his physical fitness and strength attributes were improving at a rate of 1 point every day. If you continue to practice at this speed, it will only take a month to reach the limit of the first level. But unexpectedly, as soon as 3 days passed, Chen Chu found that the speed at which his body absorbed extraordinary energy during cultivation dropped sharply. According to the current speed of cultivation, he expected that it would take at least 4 days to improve 1 attribute point, and it would take about 4 months to reach the limit of the first level. Even Chen Chu was a little stunned by this gap. "Hey, I was about the same age as you." Xia Yui chuckled and said, "I enjoyed the rapid progress when I first established the foundation. After a few days, it feels really uncomfortable to slow down several times. Otherwise, with the speed of cultivation when I first established the foundation, I am sure that I will reach the limit of the first level in half a month. But now, I feel like it's almost a little over a month away." Chen Chu nodded. Xia Yui has been building the foundation for half a month. In this case, he still needs to practice for more than a month, and it will take about 2 months to reach the limit of the first level. This cultivation speed is almost twice as fast as his. The strength of both of them is very weak now, and the gap may not seem obvious, but when they practice to the 2nd heaven, 3rd heaven, or even higher realm later, the gap brought by this talent will become wider and wider. Of course, just because you practice quickly doesn't mean you will definitely become a strong person. Similarly, in the world of cultivation, it is not without records of ordinary people who practiced slowly in the early stages and surpassed geniuses over time, but the probability of this is too low. And ordinary people are working hard to cultivate, but these geniuses are also working hard. For example, call. In the distance, Lin Shui, who was wearing tight-fitting training clothes, exhaled and slowly put away the long sword that was 1.5 meters long, 10 centimeters wide and weighed 20 kilograms. The school's training areas are divided into 2 types. One is a personal area for Chen Chu to practice quiet skills, and the other is a spacious area for practicing sword skills and sword techniques. The surrounding walls are also reinforced with some kind of high-strength material, and there are also some supporting testing and training equipment, which can satisfy the normal training of most students. A few geniuses who like quietness or have cultivation needs can also spend money to rent some special cultivation rooms from the school. It's just that it's very expensive. For example, the activity room that Lin Shui and the others applied for costs tens of thousands a month, and it also needs to be reviewed. It is said that it will take 2 days to be approved. Lin Shui wiped her sweat, put the long sword on the shelf and walked over. "Chen Chu, don't think too much. Although your cultivation speed is a little slower than ours, your foundation is solid. And the key to cultivation is persistence. Short-term advantages don't mean everything." Although Chen Chu refused to join their small club that day, Lin Shui didn't care. As the squad leader, she sometimes reminded Chen Chu of some common sense in cultivation. Chen Chu nodded slightly. "Don't worry, monitor, this little gap won't affect me." At this time, Xia Yui asked curiously, "Squad leader, How long will it take for you to reach the limit of the first level? Lin Shui wiped the sweat from her forehead and thought for a moment. It's expected to be within half a month. Suddenly Xia Yui's eyes widened. How is it possible? It's also an advanced technique, but you only built the foundation 2 days earlier than us. Why are you so much faster than me? Lin Shui glanced at him sideways and sneered, because you are lazy. Look at Chen Chu. As long as his energy is restored, he will practice and make progress every day. But what about you? Xia Yui said speechlessly, Monitor, we are only high school students and not ascetics. Why are we practicing so hard? And it's not just me who is resting, they are also resting. Why don't you tell them? Not far away, Luo Fei with long hair and shawl was reading quietly with a Taoist book. On the sofa opposite, a girl named Li Wenwen was eating pastries. People who don't know this picture might think that this is a place for afternoon tea. However, Chen Chu knew that this was just their own way of recovery. Running qi and blood and refining extraordinary energy actually consumed a lot of energy and energy. Regardless of whether it is the foundation building technique or the current Zenwu technique, there is no easy way to practice. Chapter 23 King Ming. Glancing at Xia Yui who was arguing, Chen Chu glanced at Lin Shui. Today's squad leader had her slightly curly purple hair tied back. Because she was wearing a relatively close-fitting white training uniform, her already tall and slender figure looked even more graceful. Especially from Chen Chu's perspective, there is a sense of majesty with mountain peaks. But don't look at anything inappropriate, so Chen Chu just glanced at him and looked away. Through the conversation between the two just now and his understanding of the cultivation situation of the classmates in the past few days, he got a rough comparison of everyone's current cultivation progress. Currently among the freshmen, the one with the best talent is Class 1 in Fuking. That girl spent 2 days building the foundation, and during the time of building the foundation, her basic attributes reached 4 times that of an ordinary person. Xia Yui and Chen Chu said that the other party could reach the limit of the first level in a week at most, and they should be working hard to break through to the second level now. Then there are geniuses like Lin Shui who can achieve breakthroughs in 3 or 4 days. After successful foundation building, they can reach the limit of the first level in about a month. Then there are ordinary geniuses like Xia Yui who can build a foundation in 7 days, which takes about 2 months. As for Luo Fei and those who built the foundation within half a month, it would take at least 3 to 4 months to reach the limit of the first level without any accidents. At this moment, Chen Chu suddenly felt that practicing was as difficult as climbing to heaven. It takes several months for geniuses like them, who are systematically cultivated by schools, to reach the limit of the first heaven. So how long will it take to break through to the second heaven? Also, what about those who completed foundation building within a month? How long will it take for them to reach the limit of the first level? Half a year or a year? No wonder that post said that with the help of the school, it would be a waste of time for those who cannot build a foundation within a month to continue practicing. After resting for a while and feeling that his energy had recovered somewhat, Chen Chu started practicing again. Although his practice of dragon elephant technique has slowed down and the attribute page does not show specific proficiency progress, Chen Chu can still clearly feel that he is making progress. The characteristic of solidifying proficiency still exists, and he can improve it as long as he practices. This saves him from having to spend some time every day consolidating his cultivation achievements like Xia Yui and others. Otherwise, it would not take more than 4 months for him to reach the limit of the first level. Instead, he started in half a year like those who only took a month to build a foundation. After all, this is his real qualification. Today Chen Chu practiced at school until 5 o'clock before leaving. I still went to the market to buy vegetables first, and bought more than 10 kilograms of fish for my clone. They were all small pieces of fish. I couldn't help it, this fish was cheap and cost-effective. Now, as the clone grows in size, it eats more and more. It eats 4 meals a day, each eating more than 4 kilograms of fish. He's only a little older now and his appetite is so big. How can he evolve further? This also strengthened Chen Chu's idea of releasing the clone. He couldn't afford it. Thinking of the clone, Chen Chu remembered that he almost forgot something. He couldn't help but carry the food in one hand, took out his mobile phone with the other, and pulled out a number to call. Hello, who's there? A young voice came from the other side. Chen Chu reminded, Boss Li, it's me, the one who ordered the ironclad beetle. Oh, it's you, I remember you. Chen Chu asked, I would like to ask, can I get the ironclad beetle I ordered? Boss Li on the opposite side affirmed, don't worry, I have already found it with my friends in Bizhao. I will arrive at Wujiang in a few days. I will let you know when I arrive. Sorry, Boss Li. You're welcome, it's all business. The two exchanged pleasantries before Chen Chu hung up the phone. The ironclad beetle is the second evolutionary fusion gene he prepared for his clone. The only advantage of this insect is that it is tough and is known for its defense. How hard is it? It is a bug the size of a thumb. If an adult steps on it and spins it in circles, then when he releases his foot, he will find that it is completely unharmed. There are even records of cars running over you but not being able to hurt it. This kind of defense is exactly what the hexagonal salamander needs right now. By then, with a strong defense, the hexagonal force salamander's power talent can be fully unleashed and safety will also be greatly increased with the surge in strength. However, this kind of bug does not exist in Chen Chu's country, and it is not a common pet bug. Therefore, Chen Chu found the owner of the pet shop where he bought the unicorn fairy last time. After communicating with him, he spent $1,000 to order it specially. Even so, the other party only promised to help find it, and there was no guarantee whether it could be obtained. Fortunately, there seems to be no problem so far. When the clone evolves again, his physique should also be greatly improved, and he may reach the limit of the first level earlier than Sha Yui. Time passed quickly due to the busy schedule. The next day, Chen Chu came to school and went directly to the logistics department. Teacher, I want to buy a knife weapon. The middle-aged man behind the counter raised his head, looked at the freshman in high school in front of him and said casually, is there any style you like? Chen Chu nodded, yes, F class 1 to 26 type fixed knife. Okay, enter your student number first. As required, Chen Chu entered his student ID number familiarly. The student number has been verified. The F level 1 to 26 straight knife exchange requires a 10-point contribution. The middle-aged man raised his head as he spoke. You still have a 10% discount on weapon redemption, and you have 1 point left in your balance. Are you sure you want to buy this weapon? Sure. Wait. After a while, Chen Chu left the logistics department carrying a box more than 2 meters long. Arriving on the third floor of Building C, Chen Chu saw Pang Long coming out of the office with two familiar students, who should be from Class 3, about to enter the elevator. Chen Chu greeted politely, Teacher Pang, good morning. Pang Long nodded and glanced at the weapon box on his back. Do you want to practice sword skills? Remember, don't be impatient when practicing. Just do it step by step. Chen Chu responded, then nodded slightly to the two boys in the same class. Carrying the weapon on his back, Chen Chu found a deserted training area, put the box on the shelf and opened it. Suddenly, a sharp long knife appeared in front of him. This is a straight knife with a handle that is 50 centimeters long, a blade that is 1.5 meters long, 1 centimeter thick, and 10 centimeters wide. It is similar in shape to an ancient horse-cutting sword, but is thicker. According to the information, this knife is made of F-grade alloy. The strength of the alloy is comparable to aerospace metal. It weighs 20 kilograms and is characterized by sharpness and strength. This kind of weapon would cost tens of thousands in the outside world, even if it had connections. It can be said that in terms of cultivation and training, the official treatment of these beginners is very preferential, whether in terms of resources or other aspects. With emotion, Chen Chu drew the sword in his hand and suddenly felt his hand heavy. With Chen Chu's current arm strength of 140 kilograms, it is a bit difficult to hold a straight knife weighing 20 kilograms with one arm, because all the weight is concentrated on the palm of the hand. When he held the handle of the knife with both hands, the feeling of difficulty subsided. Chen Chu waved the knife a few times to get familiar with the feeling, and then slowly made a gesture to raise the knife. His aura suddenly changed, and his eyes were sharp and compelling. The first level of Dragon Elephant Kung Fu is to strengthen the strength of the whole body and improve the toughness of the skin, muscles and bones. The Hard-Eye Bright Sword is a kind of sword technique that focuses on the explosion of both arms. The essence of the sword technique is domineering and fierce. It can move widely, open and close, and use force to suppress people, just like the angry Ming King. Coupled with the violent power of the Dragon Elephant Kung Fu, Chen Chu can explode into even stronger combat power. Chapter 24 Intuition. Drink. With a low cry, Chen Chu, holding the knife in both hands, stepped up and down, slashing with a fierce wind. Then he stepped forward and slashed diagonally, stabbed, and turned around to sweep. The sword represents the courage of 100 soldiers, it is fierce and domineering, and the wielder of the sword should be as imposing as a tiger descending from a mountain. While Chen Chu was practicing basic sword skills, other students came to the third floor one after another, and each found a deserted area to practice. These students all come from Class 3, including Yurui, who was the first to build the foundation, and ordinary students who only built the foundation in the past 2 days. There are only a dozen of them in total. According to school regulations, one martial arts teacher leads 5 classes in the first year of high school and only teaches briefly. In the second semester, when the cultural subjects and the cultivation subjects begin to be divided, the foundation building students in the 5 classes will be combined into one class. At this time, they were considered Pang Long's official students, and their number was less than 100. In the second semester, the number of these students will be reduced, and many people who are making slow progress and have poor qualifications will choose to give up. After all, not everyone can endure hardship and endure the boring feeling of standing still for half a year or even a year. Soon, more than a dozen training areas on the third floor were crowded. Some students, like Chen Chu, were practicing swordsmanship, and weapons such as sticks. In addition, there are people who practice boxing and leg skills. Regardless of whether they are practicing palm skills or weapons, because of their strong basic attributes, these students' movements when practicing have a roaring sound and amazing momentum. When these students were practicing the exercises, Pang Long would occasionally come out to patrol and would give a few words to anyone who found any problems with their practice. Some students would ask him for advice if they had questions about cultivation. However, on this floor, Lin Shui and Xia Yui were basically nowhere to be seen. They found a temporary activity room to practice, waiting for the official practice room approval. In addition, wealthy geniuses from other classes will rent a training room alone to practice quietly and work hard. During this practice, Chen Chu practiced for almost half an hour before he stopped sweating profusely, gasping for air, waiting for the energy and blood in his body to slowly calm down. Next comes the formal practice. Listening to the shouts of the classmates practicing around him and the roar of the wind caused by his fists and feet, Chen Chu was seen holding the handle of the knife in his right hand and holding it behind his back. At the same time, the whole person relaxed wholeheartedly, closed his eyes, and focused all his attention on the blade behind him. The sharp edge of the knife stimulates the 5 senses and amplifies them infinitely. The mind's eye Mingdao, Ming Wang's outer side, and the heart's eye is the inner side, can be cultivated into a state called the mind's eye, which is similar to the 6th sense that can sense danger in advance. The main purpose is to avoid sneak attacks by some insidious mutant beasts in the forest. Mutated beasts are the official collective name for those mutated creatures, not just huge creatures like ligers and tigers. Over the past few decades, some animal poisonous insects have even mutated into another species, possessing strange abilities. Many practitioners were caught off guard by sudden attacks. This is also the reason why Chen Chu chose this sword technique. The prerequisite for pursuing powerful power is to survive. However, although this sword technique is special, few students choose to practice it. The reason is that the entry requirements are very high and they must have spiritual perception beyond ordinary people. Chen Chu dared to practice in addition to thinking that his spiritual talent was good. It was mainly due to the fixed proficiency feature of the attribute page. As long as he can successfully enter the mind-eye state once, he can enter it anytime and anywhere. But at noon, Chen Chu, who had stood quietly for more than 2 hours, opened his eyes with a wry smile on his face and failed. However, this result had been expected by him. He never thought that he would be able to enter the mind-eye state for the first time, but if it didn't work once, he would do it twice or 3 times. There was no rush. You guys, don't practice all day long. You are still high school students, you know. The end of month exams are next week. Please pay attention. Even if some of you have good talents and will follow the path of cultivation in the future, that will be the future. At least this semester, you are still liberal arts students. On Friday, in Class 3 classroom, Chen Chi stood on the podium and said unhappily, "All the students are here today, whether it is Chen Chu or Lin Shui and others, because everyone received the notice from the class teacher yesterday and dare not come. Although they have practiced Zenwu, they still dare not neglect Chen Chi, the head teacher. The reason is very simple. Their class teacher is very strong. As for how strong Chen Chu is, he doesn't know. Anyway, I heard what Xia Yui said. It's been almost a month. It feels like time flies by so fast, right Chu?" Xia Yui sighed as he leaned on his chair during the break in class. Chen Chu nodded slightly, indeed. In the blink of an eye, he has been practicing Zenwu for more than a week. Every day he is either practicing dragon elephant kung fu or sword skills. He even practices it before going to bed at night. In such a busy and fulfilling situation, I don't feel the passage of time at all. At the same time, during this period, several students in the class succeeded in building foundations one after another. But it is a pity that the talents of these students are indeed a bit lacking. Only one of them reached the first level of Heavenly Gate during foundation building, and the others are still working hard. In addition to this, there are still 25 people in the class who have not established a foundation. Some of these students have already given up, but only a few are still unwilling to give up and want to make a breakthrough in the last week with impatience and urgency on their brows. In contrast, those students who have made breakthroughs appear calm and relaxed, without the initial pressure. At this time, Xia Yui asked Achu, "Tomorrow is Saturday, do you have any plans?" "What are the plans?" "Of course we will continue to practice." Chen Chu looked at him strangely. "I knew you would say that." Xia Yui held his forehead. "Achu, we are high school students, and we have completed the foundation building now. There is no need to live like an ascetic. Don't you want to celebrate your youth? Go shopping with 3 or 2 beautiful female classmates on your day off, watch movies and drink milk tea together." After saying that, Xia Yui winked at Chen Chu, and not far away, he saw the pure and beautiful Luo Fei lowering her head slightly and talking to Li Wenwen. Obviously, Xia Yui signaled Chen Chu to ask Luo Fei out to play tomorrow. In his opinion, Chen Chu is handsome, Luo Fei is pure and beautiful, and the two of them have a good relationship in class. They are a perfect pair of golden boys and girls. As good friends and brothers, we naturally have to find ways to bring them together. Chen Chu shook his head speechlessly, not interested. What does a little kid know about love? Don't you know that everything in this world is fake and only your fist is real? Of course, Chen Chu is not a monk and he also likes to look at beautiful women, but we should wait until he becomes a strong man. The hair hasn't even grown yet, so it's too early to think about this. No interest, Ah Chu, you are not interested in Luo Fei? Could it be that you? Xia Yui looked at Chen Chu in confusion, his eyes widened suddenly as he spoke, and he whispered in disbelief. Do you like that cold woman from the monitor? I like your size. Don't talk nonsense here. It's not good for these words to spread. Chen Chu frowned slightly. Okay, no kidding, Ah Chu. Seeing that Chen Chu was getting serious, Xia Yui spared him. This brother really only knows how to practice all day long. He also said that he was looking for an opportunity to bring them together, but it seemed that he was overthinking it.